Welcome to another Pop Dissected Podcast. Today, we're going to be ranking the albums of Kesha. As with my last ranking on Katy Perry, this won't necessarily be a ranking from worst to best. These will be my personal viewpoints. While the artist's intent is important, and so is their reasoning for making music the way they do, I'll be opting to look at these albums as art, and won't be focusing so much on the reasoning behind said art. I'm going to be ranking these albums on a variety of factors: how they relate to her as an artist, if they're well crafted, and their enjoyability and image associated with them. If you're a fan of Kesha, or even a casual listener, post your ranking down in the comments and let me know what your favorite Kesha album is and why. If you're excited to hear more about the pop music world, be sure to drop a like and subscribe, and be sure to turn on that notification bell so you can be the first to know when a new video is out. Kesha has released 4 studio albums since 2010. Animal, Warrior, Rainbow, and High Road. I will be including Cannibal within this ranking, despite it technically being an extended play. However, I'll explain my reasoning since Cannibal ranks 5 on my list. Cannibal serves as an extension of Animal, and Kesha has actually released an effort that combines both of these as one entity. Thus, they're not even really two sides of the same coin. They're one side. Cannibal was released in November of 2010. 10 months after Animal. Kesha pretty seamlessly transitioned between both efforts because they're so similar. I will say, Cannibal does have some of my favorite tracks of hers. The title track, Sleazy, Crazy Beautiful Life, and See You Next Tuesday. It's a pretty solid effort. However, serving as an extension to Animal, there's nothing particularly special or unique about the EP. I honestly don't have much to really critique, since you could almost look at Cannibal as really just Animal's cut tracks, despite it being brand new material. Now that Cannibal is out of the way and I've provided my thoughts on that, let's get into the first album and our number 4 spot. This belongs to High Road. When it came out, High Road was definitely the Kesha album I listened to. The title track, Shadow, Father-Daughter Dance, Cowboy Blues, and Resentment are some tracks that really stand out to me. Now, I already further explained in detail why this album didn't do as well as others, which you can check the description for. Being off the heels of Rainbow, I think this is primarily the reason, and my personal one as well. High Road walks the line of emotional vulnerability we saw on Rainbow, and the party attitude we saw on Animal and some of Warrior. However, Kesha doesn't really commit to either or. I feel that after the triumph of Rainbow, she was really in a tough spot of where to go artistically. Does she continue emotional rock and roll music, or continue being a party electro-pop girl? She tries to do both in High Road. It's a pretty disjointed album in all honesty, with some tracks taking up space just because they can. Even if she wanted to make what she wanted to make, which is commendable, that type of freedom does not always equate to a solid, well-made album. Do I think High Road is bad? No. But I find it pretty average. Rainbow a lot more effectively balanced emotional maturity and screw-it-all anthems. High Road repeats this theme, but to a much less effective extent. All that said, and finding it her weakest album, it still is a lot of fun. And that's a feeling that Kesha can capture very well. I deliberated a lot over my number 3 ranking, but a decision had to be made, and that goes to her debut album, Animal. Shocking, right? It may contain her best known work, but I have my reasons. I don't want to look at Animal through a nostalgic lens, though this album provides that, and very well. This is an album that introduced Kesha, but also served as her pitfall, blocking her into a corner with her sound and personality. Though I love a lot of these songs, production-wise, I find a handful of them very irritating. The autotune and content also just doesn't offer that much substance. Some of it is vulgarity just to be vulgar. And before I get any mention about double standards, being crass is not equatable to being talented or inventive. I'm not offended per se, but this album contains some lyricism that makes me roll my eyes and think, really? It's important to say, I'm looking at Kesha's work only within the context of her own library, no one else's. What Animal does well is provide fun-filled anthems that you can dance to and have a good time listening to. It teeters on the idea of mindless music. It's fun, and that's a lot of what Kesha's earlier music strived for, which is why this album ranks here, even if I have a handful of things I disagree with about it. And that's also not to say that if music doesn't have depth or an emotional nature to it, it's automatically bad. This is just my personal opinion about this effort. Music can be fun and silly, and it can still be very good. Coming in second is Warrior. As stated, this album and Animal switched between the third and second position for me, but let me explain my placement for Warrior. Between all of Kesha's earlier work, so to say, I listened to this album as a whole a lot more. Warrior saw the beginning of Kesha tapping into a genre that I think is more her and suits her better, rock. And of course, I'm using this genre as a blanket rather than going into specific subgenres. There are a few tracks that still call back to her electropop days, and the influence is all over the album. She's still crass, very don't give a crap, but I think it's a lot less belligerent on Warrior, which makes a difference. Here we get beautiful songs like Past Lives, Love Into the Light, Last Goodbye, Wonderland, and Wherever You Are. These are some of Kesha's most underrated songs of all time. Warrior broke new ground for her and showed she could be more well-rounded and a serious artist. This introduces the idea of the fun-serious balance she would later perfect on Rainbow. Warrior does have some heavy-handed production on only a few songs, like Out Alive and Supernatural, but the production overall is pretty listenable. This album seems to be the one people forget a lot about, when it has some really solid work on it. A case of the singles did not do the album justice. However, Come On is a jam, and one of my favorite upbeat songs of hers. Before we talk about my number one choice, I'd like to quickly shout out my channel members, Skyhawker, Daniel Barron, and Steven. If you'd like to help decide future video topics, get exclusive chat and comment badges, and receive shoutouts, then I'd love to have you as a channel member. Now, if you haven't figured it out, Rainbow is in the top spot at number 1 of my ranking. It's hard to talk about this album without discussing everything that led up to its creation, but I'll try. I believe Rainbow does everything right. I think it offers us the sound Kesha performs the best in and sounds the best in. It gives us tender moments mixed with anthemic tracks. We have self-discovery, resilience, and a badass attitude. I think this is a full-blown authentic Kesha Rose Seabird. Learn to Let Go, the title track, Praying, Him, Bastards, and Finding You are some of the emotional highlights. Let Him Talk, Boogie Feet, Boots, Woman, and Hunt You Down offer that spunk and great rock moments. To be honest, every song on this album has its place and deserves to be on this album and contributes to the bigger picture. You have a Dolly Parton collaboration, and even two oddities, Godzilla and the wonderful song Spaceship, that offers an incredible closing monologue. Kesha shows us what she's capable of as an artist and a writer. She can do it all. She can be wild and hold her middle finger to the sky while still being down to earth and vulnerable, and be quirky and a bit out there. Rainbow was really robbed at the Grammy ceremony, and I personally feel they only nominated her and let her perform to show a faux credibility and solidarity amidst her legal battle with a producer who still has a job in the industry today. To summarize, my ranking finds Cannibal at the bottom, just being an addendum to Animal without adding anything new. We moved to High Road, as it felt very disjointed and didn't bounce the themes Kesha was trying to explore very well. We go on to Animal. Though being a nostalgic trip, its production and overt crassness and much to say about nothing doesn't really connect with me. Warrior, however, explores more of the authentic side of Kesha and breaks new ground. Then Rainbow brings it full circle, being able to master what High Road couldn't and what Warrior began to do, bringing vulnerability, fun, and a suitable genre to the forefront. So that is my Kesha album ranking. What do you think? And what are your rankings? Let me know down in the comments. And don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more future content on all your favorite pop stars.